everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hyfi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. I'm your host this week. My name's Kayla, and I am joined with my amazing friends, Isaac and Rachel. Hey guys, how's it going today?
So excited to be here, Kayla.
Always. We love, it's so fun when we get to just get together and talk about Jesus and record it for all of our friends to listen to. So friends, thank you for one, staying with us, and two, for listening in. So hopefully this time is as much fun for you as it is for us, but we really enjoy just getting together and get to chat and really kind of prepare our hearts and prepare our minds for what's coming up this week. So this week we are still talking about the simple truth: God made me special and I am uniquely designed. And the theme for this month is so fun. So preschool, it's one of a kind. God made me special. And with kids, it's remarkable. But only Isaac Kirstead can say it. I can't say it the way Isaac says it. Isaac, how is it?
Remarkable.
There you go. See?
That actually came from one of our designers. So I have to be sure that I say it how she wants us to say it to match the art theme that is so cool for this month.
I love it. It takes a village. And we're so grateful for all of the creative people on our team that get to work and develop Hyfi for you and for your kids and for the preschoolers in your ministry. And so today we are leaning in and talking about how God made us for relationship. And we're going to be talking about a story that you may not be your first thought of going to talk about relationship of teaching. And we're going to be talking about God's law, particularly about the 10 Commandments, and then how that bridges and connects to what Jesus says in the New Testament about the greatest of all the laws. So, but before we get there, thinking about laws and thinking about rules kind of makes me think about games. So in the summertime, it is so fun to just get together and play games. Hopefully you guys get some opportunity to go visit with your family or friends and just hang out and get to play games together. Maybe you're not a game person, and that's okay too. But our question is about house rules, right? So what kind of game player are you? And I'm thinking about like board games, card games. If you guys don't know, Uno posted this online rule that says you can't play a draw 4 card on top of another draw 4 card. And people lost their mind.
I'm so glad they did. They needed to put an end to that craziness that is not how you're supposed to play Uno.
No, it's so much fun. It's so much fun, especially if you're me and you're playing with your nieces and nephews and you just put draw 4, draw 4, draw 4, and then they get all these cards. It's the best. Anyway, Isaac, Rachel, help me out here. What kind of game player are you? Are you a follow the rules, read the instructions to everyone beforehand? Or you just kind of make it up as you go? Do you kind of have your own house rules and y'all just play house rules?
So it very much depends on the game, I will have to say. But I grew up in a family that is highly competitive, to the point where, like, my wife, when we play games with my family, she's like, I'm going to cheer you all on because I can't get to this level. And also, she would, like, my sister one time said, I'm not cheating, I'm winning. And that was like, yeah, we're like, yeah, good job. You're right, 5-year-old.
Who was surprised, Fred? Who is surprised that Isaac and his family are competitive?
But now that I have gotten older, I will say I do like a well ruled out game. I love the type of games that it takes 30 minutes to read the rules, and then you take another 30 minutes just to figure out what pieces are in the box, and then you get to play an hour and a half in. That's when you start playing. Those are my type of games now. But so I do like those rule games. But like cards, you know what? You just win.
If you're not cheating, you're not winning. Isaac Kirsten, everyone. Isaac, didn't you have like a friend group that was their like big birthday celebration, was just like a full day of game playing?
Oh, no, we played Survivor for 9 hours. We voted people out. We had individual immunity challenges. We might actually be going to an Airbnb to do that this year, where it's a 2-day survivor event. That we take our games
Wow.
very seriously.
That is another level. That is another level. That's amazing. All right, Rachel, what about you? What kind of games does your family play? And then kind of tell us where do you fall on the gaming spectrum?
Well, our family loves games. We love Monopoly. We love card games. But most of all, we love trivia. It's our favorite game. We play trivia every single week and take it very, very seriously. But I am a play it by the book, play it by the rules kind of player. But I do have to be honest and say I want everyone else to play it by the book and sometimes want them to bend the rules when it benefits me. Um, but for the most part, we like to play it just as it's written.
That's fair. That's fair. I appreciate your honesty.
I appreciate
I like
Rachel's
the
low-key
rules.
competitiveness. I've heard stories of her
Yeah.
trivia night extravaganzas and how some people, it gets crazy. It gets crazy.
Low key competitive. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I wonder what you guys would say. Are you low key competitive or are you over the top super competitive? Which direction do you go? So, well, this week we are talking a little bit about rules, but particularly we're talking about how those rules kind of help connect us to relationship. And so, as we were really dreaming and considering where to go in the Bible to talk about this, we leaned into both Exodus 20 and Mark 12, which is a little bit different for us, but because we have like a story in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, and we kind of push them together. But we thought this was a really neat opportunity to talk with kids and preschoolers about God's design for relationship, that He designed us and made us and created us for relationship, both with Him and with other people. So, Isaac, help us unpack this a little bit. How does the Ten Commandments and Mark 12 and what Jesus says, how does that help us understand this idea that God made us for relationship?
I did not hear this story put this way until I was an adult. I never heard the story of the Ten Commandments connected to relationships growing up or in Sunday school or anything like that. But I have absolutely loved getting to dive deeper into this, how we can explain this to kids. So I first want to actually look at the passage in Mark, where Jesus breaks down the two most important rules as love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then the second is like this, to love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two rules that Jesus gives us in the New Testament. But when we look back at Exodus, at the Ten Commandments that God gave to His people when they were first going to their new home coming out of Egypt, we can see how they are broken down very clearly into love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the first 4 commandments talk all about our relationship with God, how we should have no other gods before us, how we should not take the Lord's name in vain, what our relationship with God looks like. But the second 6 commandments talk all about our relationship with the people around us, the people in our community, the people that God has made, and how we should treat them, how we should not steal, we should not lie. All of these things are our relationship with the people around us. So when we get to teach these to preschoolers and we get to teach these to kids, these are not just rules that came on the back of the box of life that we just have to follow because it's a good idea, because this is what God told His people thousands of years ago, and now we should live it now. But we can see God's perfect plan through these rules. That first, we should have a relationship with the God who made us, the God who values us, the God who loves us, and that relationship is the most important thing in how we can have that relationship. But then we get to look at the rules that, hey, sometimes I need a reminder of how I can talk to the people around me, how I can interact with the people around me, and how these rules directly affect those relationships in my life and things that I need to remember on a daily basis that come not from a really good social media influencer that tells me how to have the best relationship, but with the God who created me and that other person in the relationship, and how we can live to serve God through it.
Yeah, that is so good. And you're right. It's so often when we hear this story, particularly with 10 Commandments, that it's a list of rules. It's that game rules on the back of the box that says do this, don't do this. And if we're not careful, we end up teaching this moralistic therapeutic deism, right? This be a good person, do these moral things, have these values, and God will be happy with you. And instead, really what the heart of this passage is, as Jesus explains it, is to love God with everything you are and to love other people as yourself. That is mirrored in the commandments that God gives us or God gave Moses and his people in the Old Testament. It's so easy to fall into that trap, even as leaders, for us to say, I just need to teach this behavior modification. Like, I need to teach kids to be good. I need to teach kids to follow the rules. And the whole point of the gospel is we can't, right? We can't follow the rules perfectly. We're going to mess up. We're sinful and we're in need of a savior. And so it's such a good opportunity to point kids to the gospel. And this is how God wants us to live life best, that he made us for relationship with him first and relationship with other people. But it's out of the overflow of that relationship that we have with God that we're even able to love others and serve others and care for others and put them first. So as we think about the kids that we serve in our ministries today, we know that some kids really think that if I do these right things, then my relationships will be good. If I check this box, God will be happy with me. And if I do this, if I act in this way, then God will fill in the blank. How is it that we can help kids really wrestle with the fact that this isn't the case? And Rachel, I'm going to turn to you for this because as kind of our preschool expert, I know you see this a lot in that preschool space. So kind of help us unpack this a little bit. How do we really help kids and preschoolers wrestle that if they do the right thing, it doesn't mean everything is going to go the way they want it to go?
Yeah. I think it's really important that we talk about this and kind of unpack it and really teach this to our preschoolers and kids, because I think sometimes we think of it as a formula. Do this, do the right thing, check out the boxes, and everything's good to go in our relationships in our life. And that's just not the case. And that's not the way life works. First of all, we live in a broken world. And so you can try to do things as kind as you can. You can try to be a great friend and have healthy and strong relationships. But there are going to be times you're going to be misunderstood, someone misconstrued something, or a conflict is going to arise. And that's just going to happen in a broken world. And you have to enter your friendships and your relationships with grace and assuming that your friends and the people in your lives want what's best for you and want good things and have good intentions. And I think sometimes we don't assume those things. We assume negative things. And I think it's really important for kids and preschoolers to understand that. But also, I think sometimes we think if we do all the right things, then our relationships will be right. Because all the right things we're doing are good. But like you said earlier, the truth is, all the things we do are not always good, that we're fallen people, we're sinners, and we need Jesus. So even doing all the right things, we're still going to get it wrong sometimes because we can't get it right. And we have to look to Jesus to forgive us and then to begin to teach us what is right and to help mold our hearts to really want the right thing and treat people the way he treated people.
Yeah, that's really helpful. You know, as you were saying that, it reminded me, I love what you said about how it's not our it's not our intention, right? That most of the hard stuff that comes in our relationships, we sometimes assume are intentional or purposeful and are personal, and a lot of times they're not. A lot of times the things that we do that hurt one another aren't on purpose and aren't intentional. It's just that yucky stuff that we deal with because we are broken, sinful people. And so we do have to approach those relationships with grace and really have that heart that says, you know what? I am a sinful person and you're a sinful person. You're going to hurt my feelings and I'm going to hurt your feelings. And we're going to be committed to forgiving each other and to confessing that when we hurt each other. And so there's so many great opportunities for us to talk with kids this week about what it looks like to do relationship with one another, particularly in the church. And I know we don't always talk about this often, but there are hurt feelings in the church. Did you guys know that? There's some hurt feelings that happen in church, in case you didn't know. As ministry leaders, you 100% know that there are hard and hurtful things that happen in church. And in the midst of that, God says we're still made for relationship. We're made for a relationship with him, and we're made to live in relationship with other people. And that means holding tightly when things are hard, and, wrestling in relationship and confessing when we've done something that hurts someone else. But it also really leans into the fact that it's not about what we do, right? It's about what God has already done. And so it's not a matter of if I do this, then we really need to change that framework and mindset to help kids and preschoolers understand we're still broken. We still live in this broken, fallen world, but it is God who has already done this. And so we hold on to hope for when he is going to make all things new, when those relationships that are broken right now will be made new. And there won't be any of the messiness that we have anymore. So I want to shift our focus for just a second because a lot of times with kids, kind of like what you were saying earlier, Isaac, we're taught about obeying the rules, right? And particularly for this generation, Gen Alpha, who is swimming in this world of expressive individualism, where they don't trust institutions, they're not automatically trusting an adult when they walk in the room, they're questioning a lot of things. How can we really help this generation shift their focus from do this, check this box, obey this, answer this rule, answer this question, to really understanding the formation of the spirit of why God gave us the law in the first place and how we can live in healthy relationships with God and with other people?
For sure. Now, this is one thing that I have loved getting to teach Hyfi, because with Hyfi, we don't want just to fill these kids' heads with like a bunch of knowledge about scripture, a bunch of rules that they can have on a checklist, finish up and be like, yes, I'm going to follow these rules. But this is all about building a relationship. First, about building a relationship with the leader, building a relationship with the kids in the room, so that eventually they can have a relationship with the God who made them. So when we shift the focus of not saying, hey, these are 10 rules that you have to check off every single day, but instead, if we get to introduce them to the God who made them, introduce them to have a relationship with God that is building up, that is something that it's kind of that first handshake. You don't immediately trust a person when you first meet them, but it is a building relationship. And as they learn more about who God is, that trust is built. As they learn more about why God gave us these rules, that trust is built. As they learn more about what God has done for us, that trust is built. We can't just hand them 10 rules and expect them to say, yep, you know what? God gave me these. God is that guy I've heard of a few times. I'm going to follow them. But instead, we get to help these kids, these preschoolers, build a relationship with God, to build that trust so that they can have that relationship. And then through that relationship, they can see that these rules are meant for their own good. God didn't just give us rules just because he thought it was a good idea one day while they were hanging around Mount Sinai, but instead these are rules that are specifically meant for us to have a better relationship with God and a better relationship with people around us.
Yeah, so well said. Yeah, I 100% agree. And, whenever we talk about the need for kids to have that relationship. We say it around us all the time, but that ministry happens best in the context of relationship. The discipleship happens best in that context of relationship. And so relationship really is key. And when we're helping kids, we want them in our ministries to know that we love and care about them, and that we want to grow in relationship in authentic and age-appropriate ways, but also that we're doing that and building that trust with that kid or with that preschooler so that we can introduce them to the most lasting, important relationship of their lives. And it's through that context of relationship that we're able to really talk with kids and introduce them to Jesus and help them understand who he is and who he made them to be. And so, listeners, this week we're really going to be leaning in there. And so it's a little bit different kind of story, both from Old Testament and New Testament, but we feel like it's really key in helping kids and preschoolers understand that the relationship that God made us for is with him and with other people. And we feel like this story is such a helpful one to talk with kids and preschoolers to help them realize that trusting relationship of who God is and how he designed us is to be in relationship both with him and with other people. And speaking of relationships, we have some really cool opportunities this summer for you and for your kids to really dive into relationship. One of those is with our Summer Serve event. So it's been out for a few weeks now. If you haven't had a chance, go check it out on Ministry Grid. It's over in the advanced planning section in the family and volunteer events. And it's just a really fun family event where you get to bring all of your families together. It's preschool, it's kids, it's students. So it really applies to a family, no matter where their kid is in age range using Hyfi. And it really just creates a fun opportunity to talk about serving together, to play some fun games, and to really engage with what it looks like to go deeper in those horizontal relationships. And then we also would love for you to check out the Flip Connection this month. It's so fun. It's so sweet. Every single month we have a different relationship that we really lean into and kind of highlight. And this one for June is about pastors. And so we've got a really fun challenge for you guys to, we've got a couple of copies of this handshake, high five, hello poster that you can kind of hang around your ministry space and really encourage your kids and your families to go up and give your pastor a handshake or a high five or say hello, and to really engage with their pastor in just a fun, approachable way. So we invite you guys to check both of those things out as you really dive into relationship this summer. Next week, we are going to be leaning into Game Changer and Hooray Day.
Yeah.
So every single fifth week, we have this special Game Changer Hooray Day, and it's loads of fun. There's more games. There's high energy. It's just a fun, something different type of week, but it also leans in and talks a lot about that relationship that God has with us. And so next week, we're going to talk about how God made me special, and we're going to be leaning into the children of God. So you will not want to miss next week's episode as we kind of unpack that Hooray Day and Game Changer week. So, well, listeners, we are so grateful for you guys, grateful that you're listening this morning or this afternoon or this evening or wherever you are in your listening podcasts. And so we hope this time is helpful for you. We hope it is encouraging and really helps set your mind and prepare your heart and your mind as you teach preschoolers and kids this week. We're grateful for you, and we can't wait to talk to you soon.